Welcome.
To Purana Talk. We're doing the Garuda Purana. We're in the second section, sometimes called the Preta Khanda. We're going to call it that today because it seems appropriate to the subject. The title of chapter 7 is the story of 5 ghosts. Garuda is hanging out talking to Vishnu in the form of Krishna, at least sometimes. Garuda said, "I've heard the story relating to the rite of Vrishotsarga." That was the subject of the last chapter. "I have heard the story relating to the rite of Vrishotsarga. I wish to be enlightened further upon this topic. For
Us too.
Yes, too. Okay. For your knowledge is very great." Yeah, it never quite explained what the Vrishotsarga rite is.
Just said it was really important.
About,
and yeah. It would be a bad thing if you didn't do it.
So maybe we'll be further enlightened on the subject. The Lord said, "Now I shall tell you a wonderful dialogue between Santapana and the ghosts on this very point." Now, ghosts is an English word, but because it's GH, I'm so used to aspirating it, so I'm saying ghosts. Don't be surprised. There was a Brahmana, Santapana by name, whose sins had been destroyed by penance. Knowing the futility of the world, he left home and went to the forest. When Vaikanasas, sages, and Vratas saw him, they bowed to him with respect. I don't know what a Vaikanasa is. Vaikanasa, plural of which is Vaikanasas. Sages and Vratas, when they saw him, they bowed. Once he went on a pilgrimage. 5. Though he controlled the outer senses and acted in the prescribed way, he was still dragged by the organs, and he slipped in his path. How? Once, he let the little head do the talking and got into trouble. Once in the morn, while he was taking bath, he opened his eyes and looked around. He saw a forest full of shrubs, creepers, trees, barks, branches, etc. And now we are going to have a long list of plant names. And I'm not going to translate them all, should I? I don't think I'm going to translate them all. I'm just going to read them. What do you think?
I would.
You would.
Give the botanical
All right,
name.
I'll just go back and forth then. I'll give the Sanskrit and then the footnote, which is the Latin name where it exists. He saw talas, Borassus flabellifer, tamalas, Cinnamomum tamala, prialas, Bucania lanzan, prialas, Arctocarpus heterophyllus, panasas, Gmelina arborea. That's GME, Gmelina arborea. Except, see, I somehow already got off the. That is Suparni is the Gmelina arborea, whereas the Panasas is the Arctocarpus heterophyllus. I hope that clarified that.
Sure.
Salas, known as sal trees these days, Shoria robusta, Shakotas, the Streblus asper, Syandanas, which would be Uxinia dalbergioides. Pardon my pronunciation. Tinducas, Diopterus tomentosa, and Sarjas, Vateria indica. Arjunas, Terminalia arjuna, one of the myrobalans. Amras, which sounds like it means mango juice. Mangifera indica, the Indian mango. Schleishmaticas, Cordia mixa. Bibitakas is the Terminalia balearica, another one of the myrobalans. Pichumardas, Diracta indica. Chinchimus, no footnote. Carcandus, it's a Ziziphus numularia. And Karamkaras, and that's Cassia fistula. All these and other trees were there, among which the way could not be seen even by the birds, not to say of men. There in that fierce forest, full of lions, tigers, hyenas, wild oxen, bears, buffaloes, elephants, deers, cobras, monkeys, and other animals, and also demons and goblins. Santapana was terrified in his heart and could not decide where to go. Then thinking, come what may, he went further. Hearing the singing of crickets and the hooting of owls, he moved forward about 5 steps. There he saw a corpse tied to a banyan tree and 5 fierce ghosts eating him. They were rejoicing over the feast by relishing the head bones, stomach attached to the back, fallen bones of the body, marrow, brain, etc. Seeing the ghosts, who were loudly cracking the bones with their fierce jaws, he was awestruck in his heart and stopped at once. When they saw that Brahmana in the lonely forest, they ran towards him, saying, I first, I first. 2 of them caught hold of his 2 arms, 2 caught hold of his legs, the 5th caught hold of his head, speaking loudly in their own language, I shall eat first! I shall eat first! They got busy in dragging him. Then all of a sudden they went up in the sky. From there they looked down how much flesh was left in the corpse. They saw the corpse bitten by their jaws, then they got down and caught hold of the corpse by legs. Thus taking hold of the body cut by themselves, they went up again in the sky. Then seeing himself being born in the heaven, the Brahmana praised the Lord in his mind. I bow to Lord Vishnu, the holder of discus, who is supreme consciousness, and kept away the crocodile by throwing his discus, and released the elephant from the noose of crocodile. May he release me from the noose of my actions. When the kings were captured by Magadha Bhima, the Lord got them released, so that they might visit Bharga's sacrifice. May he release me from the noose of my activities. He praised me in his mind, and being praised, this is Vishnu again speaking, the other was a quote from the other guy, he praised me in his mind, and being praised, I got up all of a sudden, and I went to the place where he was being carried by the ghosts. Seeing him thus carried away by the ghosts, I was surprised, and without speaking anything, I followed them a while. Simply by the dint of my presence, O bird, that Brahmana felt the pleasure of riding a palanquin. Then in the way I saw Manibhadra going to Meru, and winking at him, I took the king of Yakshas by my side. I said to the lord of Yakshas to be active and destroy the ghosts and take away the corpse. Being instructed thus, he took the form of a ghost, terrific even to other ghosts. He stretched his arms besmeared with blood and appeared before the ghosts, challenging them. He struck 2 with arms, 2 with legs, and 1 with head, and beat the ghosts with severe blows. They held that corpse, bound by hands and legs, and began to fight. They attacked the Yaksha Lord with nails, feet, and jaws. But avoiding their attacks, the Yaksha Lord snatched the corpse, as death takes away the breath. When the corpse was snatched by Yaksha, they ran towards him. As soon as they reached the Yaksha moving in air, the Yaksha vanished immediately. In utter dejection, they went to the Brahmana. As they were going to kill that Brahmana on the mountain, they remembered their previous birth. It happened by the glory of my position and by the nobility of the Brahmana. Then they encircled the Brahmana and spoke to him reverentially. Please excuse us today. They spoke like the echo of the mountain in the turmoil of the stormy sea. Hearing their words, he asked, Who are you? Is it simply an illusion, a dream, or a fancy? The chief ghost said, Hear, O Brahman, we shall tell you what you have asked us, O Mahayogan. We are absolved of our sins by seeing you. My name is Paryushita. He is Suchimukha. The 3rd one, Shigra, and the 4th one is Rodha, and the 5th one, Lekaka. The Brahmana said, Why are these meaningless names borne out by you? Can they be derived from actions performed by you, O ghosts? Now tell us the meaning of these names. The Lord said, being thus addressed by the Brahman, that they replied separately. Paryushita said, Once in a month, when Shraddha is performed for the mains, I invited a Brahman to my house. He arrived after I had eaten the part of food out of hunger. Then I gave stale food to the Brahman when he came. On account of that sin, when I died, I became a ghost and got the name Paryushita, since I had given him the stale food. Suchimukha said, Once an aged woman of the Brahmana caste went to the holy place Bhadravata. The old woman lived with her son, aged 5 years. I, being a Kshatriya pretender, stopped her in the wilderness, became a wayside robber, and I took her viaticum with clothes, along with the dress of her son. I don't know what a viaticum is. I wrapped them round my head and wanted to leave. I saw the little boy drinking water from a jar in that wilderness. Only that much water was there. I frightened the boy from drinking water, and being thirsty myself began drinking from the jar. The boy died of thirst, and the mother, who was struck with grief, died too, throwing herself into a dry well. O Brahmana, by that sin I became a ghost with mouth as small as the hole of a needle, and body as huge as a mountain. Although I get food, I cannot eat. Although I burn with hunger, my mouth is contracted. Since in my mouth I have a hole equal to that of a needle, I am known as Suchi Mukha. Mukha means mouth, so you get the idea. Shigura said, formerly I was a rich Vaishya and went to a distant country for business. I was accompanied by a friend who was a partner in business. He was rich, but greedy. Then, due to bad luck, we fared badly in business to the extent that even our capital was lost. Then we started from there, traveling in a boat. Just as the sun reddened, we began to cross the river. My friend was tired due to labor, slept in my lap. Then a cruel thought entered my mind. I threw my friend sleeping in my lap into the river. Nobody in the boat knew anything about my act. I got hold of his belongings, jewels, rubies, gold, etc., and returned home. I kept that all in my house and told my wife, my brother has been taken away by robbers in the way and robbed of his wealth. I ran away and escaped. Do not weep. She was overwhelmed with grief and burnt herself into the fire. Then, seeing my path was without obstruction, I returned home gladly. I enjoyed my friend's wealth to my heart's content. Since throwing my friend into the river, I returned home quickly. I am called Shigura. Okay. Rodika said, O Brahmana, formerly I was a Shudra. By the king's favor, I owned 100 villages. I had old parents and a younger brother. He was a wealthy Shudra, even though the lowest caste, mostly laborers from other, that somehow by the king's favor he owned 100 villages, and certainly this happens. Low caste people can certainly own property and even be wealthy. There's a lot of contradictions in Indian society. We are at 74. Very soon my brother was estranged from me by a greedy person. I stopped giving him food and clothes. He suffered too much at my hands. My parents gave him something secretly. Whatever they gave him, I learnt from my close confidence. Then I bound my parents with iron chains in a deserted temple. Being miserable, they ended their life by drinking poison. The boy who was left all alone wandered here and there and expired ultimately. By this sin, O Brahmana, I become a ghost. Since I chained my parents, I was called Rodika. Lekaka said, formerly I was a Brahmin in Avanti. I was authorized to worship the deities of Bhadra King. There were many images and different names. On their bodies they wore golden jewels. While worshipping them, an evil thought entered me. Piercing their bodies with an iron rod, I took out jewels from their eyes. When the king saw the images in that state and their eyes without jewels, he became inflamed like fire. Then he vowed, O Brahmana, and said, whosoever has stolen gold and jewels from these images, I know, if known, will be killed. Knowing all that, one night, with a sword in hand, I entered the king's palace and struck him dead. Then I took jewels and gold and went away at midnight. Then in the deep forest a tiger put on me his nails. Since I had incised the images with iron rod, I was known as Lekaka. The Brahmana said, you have told us facts about your names. Now let us know about your way of life as ghosts, as well as your food. The ghost said, we stay where people do not follow the Vedas, where there is no feeling of shame or falsehood, no faith in religion, no sense of discipline, no inclination, no forgiveness, no patience, and no knowledge. We trouble the person who does not perform shraddha or tarpana. We eat his flesh and suck his blood. Now hear about our food, which is most despicable in the world. Something of this you have already seen. We shall now tell you something unknown to you. Vomiting, waste, cough, urine, and tears, these we eat and drink. Do not ask us further, O Brahmana. We are ashamed to tell you about our food. We are ignorant, in dark, fools, and puzzled. Suddenly, have remembered about our previous births. We are neither humble nor wild, and we know nothing. The Lord said, when the ghosts were speaking thus, and the Brahman was hearing, I showed my form, O Tarkya. When that Brahmana saw before him the Purusha of my heart, he praised me with hymns and fell prostrate before me. Those ghosts, too, trembled with eyes wide open in surprise. Their voice muttered with affection. Still they could not speak. Bow to you who release the cruel from Rajas and the stupid from Tamas. Thus being uttered by the Brahmana, that mountain was adorned with 6 shining aerial cars moving at my will and attended by celestial beings. By that Vimana, the Brahmana, went to my abode along with the 5 ghosts. The ghosts went to heaven by virtue of their association with the Brahmana. Living in heaven along with the ghosts, that Brahmana Santapana became my famous Gana called Vishvakshena. Thus I have told you everything, O bird. Whoever tells or hears this narrative, O bird, does not become a ghost.
I'm trying to get the last prayer there.
Bow to you who release the cruel from Rajas and the stupid from Tamas. Among the 3 gunas, you have Rajas, Sattvas, and Tamas. Rajas is the fiery element associated with cruelty, with anger, with violence, with energy, with sexuality. Sattva is white and pure and unbound by these things, directed towards God and goodness and, like that. And the stupid, they're identifying with tamas, which is darkness, precipitating energy, the downward energy. All of these things have to exist for the world to function.
So this one seemed to be about if you do certain things in life that are sort of antisocial or anti-family, then there'd be specific results that come about.
You may end up as a ghost.
As a ghost, right.
And your name might indicate what you did.
Right.
And your state of being might be a punishment specifically for your bad behavior. But even then, there's a chance that you might stumble upon some Brahmin in the woods of ignorance
who will call on Vishnu, and Vishnu will come.
And they'll say,
and release you.
I'm headed to Vaikunt, let's take the ghosts with us. All right, they're nice ghosts. They're okay.
And they reveal sort of what their function is there in that last stanza, like after they give their names, then they reveal what they do. Right? Mm-hmm. He talks about what they do.
Well, he asks about their food. You've told us facts about your names. Now, let us know about your way of life as ghosts and what you eat.
Right.
Ooh, what we eat.
Which is really about what do you, what's your function? What do you do? Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting in a lot of ways, just because it's trying to explain this afterlife phenomenon and what causes it. Because in the Shraddha rituals, they talked about how to prevent people from becoming ghosts, right?
Yep, but they still become ghosts.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of them.
Not all of them. And there's sort of different levels of... I guess a ghost is different from a preta, because a preta is an individual spirit that has it's yet decided whether he's going to go to the ghost side or the pitri side, right? It seems to be that this is what
he's moved
emerging.
On. He's in this cycle of rebirth.
Yeah, but this is a preta is the entity that the family can bring, into rebirth without having to become a ghost.
Right. Exactly.
But might become a ghost if these things aren't done.
Right.
Probably due to the inevitability of karma attaching, dirt in a sense to one's atma, one's soul or something. Okay, and beat this one to death.
Huh? Still kicking.